Hello, my name is Dr. Ron Fussell, and I am so happy to have this opportunity to talk to you a little about the emergent topic of generative AI, such as ChatGPT, and how school leaders can use AI appropriately as a resource as they work to humanize relationships with students and teachers. I want to start by having you think for a minute about a school leader that you know who was effective in his or her role. Perhaps it's someone who led you in a school in which you previously worked. Or maybe you're thinking of a great principal that you recall from a school that you attended as a student. If you're like many others with whom I've spoken, you're probably thinking of someone with whom you have a good relationship. This confirms that for sure, school leadership is a relational endeavor. Effective leaders lead through relationships which together animate the school community and bring it to life. Consider this study conducted by the U.S. Department of Education of how K-12 principals in the United States spend their time. You can see that 30% is related to curriculum and teaching tasks, and another 24% on student interactions, and 15% on parent interactions, but 31%, nearly a third of principals' time, is spent on internal administrative tasks. Moreover, in Catholic and private schools, this number is closer to 33%, likely due to the added administrative and interdisciplinary demands that come with leading a private school. What's notable about these statistics is that in the study, the responding principals reported work weeks that were on average about 60 hours long. So 31% of 60 hours is just over 18 hours a week. And that's 18 hours a week that the principal is not engaging with teachers or students or with the process of leading learning. The myriad of administrative tasks that come with the principalship robs principals of the time that they need to engage in effective instructional leadership. So thinking about that reality makes me think about my experiences with my son. And no, not this picture of my grown adult rock star son, but we'll rewind the clock back to about 2008, 2009, when he was in fourth grade and won the science fair at the elementary school. And I remember being at the elementary school to visit. And I was talking to the principal, and he was telling me, yeah, you know, at this time of year, if you need to find me, I'll be in my office poring over the results of our standardized testing, which have come back. I'll be in my office with the test results and highlighter and a ruler. And I remember thinking, like, what a bummer that if you're the principal, you're tied up in your office doing all this data analysis. You can't actually be in classrooms working with teachers. So that might have been the reality in 2008 or 2009. But in 2024, we have more resources at our disposal that are readily available to us that can help us maximize our time so that we can spend more time in the classroom or with teachers improving instruction. And that's where generative AI, such as ChatGPT, comes into play to make our leadership more human and more relational in the school community. So to understand a little bit more about how all this works, it's helpful to examine what the GPT in ChatGPT means. So the G stands for generative. What does generative mean? Well, it means that the technology has the ability to generate text and other forms of output. And with ChatGPT, it can generate output that is similar to what you would expect to hear from a human. So they're human-like responses to questions or prompts that you would ask of it. The P stands for pre-trained, and this means that before ChatGPT can perform tasks or chat or do anything, it had to learn at a mathematical level the language, and the way it did it is by analyzing all of the text that was available to it electronically, billions of words, terabytes, which is similar to reading every book, every article, every website, everything available to it online. And this extensive pre-training is what allows the AI to understand and interpret the input that is given to it accurately so that it can handle various topics and queries effectively. So the training has helped ChatGPT to learn patterns, grammar, context from text, so that as users, we can communicate with ChatGPT using plain language. It understands that context and it returns results to us in a similar way. And finally, what the T means is transformer. And that essentially refers to the architecture that ChatGPT uses to break down information into small pieces and then rebuild it in such a way that it makes sense in terms of the language that we use to interact with it. So what does all of this mean for us? Well, first off, on a practical level, we have access to all kinds of information that we can ask for and receive using plain language. And here are a few examples. So in this example, I just asked ChatGPT to provide me with examples of 5 different icebreakers I could do with a group of students who will be part of my new advising group this fall. And when I hit submit here, it will provide me with those 5 examples at a moment's notice, all in one place, and I can go through and select one. And that saves me a lot of time because I don't have to go online to try to find all that stuff myself. So in this example, what I'm asking for from ChatGPT is a recipe for the world's best snickerdoodle cookies. I'm very picky about what I want, and you can see that it provides me with an instantaneous response with a full recipe, as well as hints and tips and pro tips for getting the world's best snickerdoodle cookies. Now here, I'm asking ChatGPT to provide me with a table of all of the years that the Bishop Girton High School girls basketball team has won the state championship. Bishop Girton High School is the school where I used to work, and I chose this prompt to demonstrate that ChatGPT can provide data for you and output in different formats, in this case, a table. This table that it's generating, I could copy and paste into an Excel file or a Google sheet or put it in a website. And what I'm doing now is continuing my chat with ChatGPT, asking it to add a column to the table that identifies the coach of the Bishop Girton team. And you can see that ChatGPT has rerun the prompt, has included a column on the right with the coach of the team, and it's even provided a little bit of commentary at the end with the sources. So just some basic uses of ChatGPT to demonstrate how quickly you can access information using language that is natural for human beings as opposed to searching for the information in other ways. So the kind of interactions that we can have with AI like ChatGPT and the kind of data and output that it provides can be helpful. But this brings me to my first essential concept, and it's that we want to always verify data, information, content that ChatGPT gives back to us in its output, especially when ChatGPT is drawing upon knowledge from its pre-training and its pre-learning, which has a certain cutoff date. And I think as of the recording of this video, I think that date is early 2024. You can actually ask ChatGPT when its learning cutoff date. ChatGPT doesn't have access to the internet in real time. So anything it gives you, it's drawing upon content that it pre-learned. But whatever the case, we want to make sure that we verify the content that we get from ChatGPT, that we verify the information for accuracy. And the last example that I shared of the basketball record for the girls basketball team at Bishop Girton High School is a perfect example of that. So again, you'll recall that ChatGPT provided us with a very snazzy example here of all the championships that Bishop Girton High School won. And this looks very official because it's in the form of a table. And we all know that everything on the internet is correct, but actually it's not. And in this case, there are some errors here. Specifically, if you look at the year column, anyone who is familiar with Bishop Girton High School knows that these years are all 1 year off. So verifying this data for accuracy would reveal that. And you would want to go in, if you were using this for something, a report or for the website or whatever, to update that information accordingly so that it's accurate. So you can't trust that ChatGPT will provide you with information that is always accurate. It's always important to go back and check, especially with critical information. This is particularly important with anything that involves references to other sources, especially scholarly sources. Here's another example. So here I'm going to ask ChatGPT to assume the role of a Catholic school principal who is writing a 5-paragraph essay on the importance of lay educator faith formation in a school. The instructions are that the essay should be written with a tone that's appropriate for parents. And I stated that the essay needs to cite Ronald Fussell once, that's me. And I just did that because I want to make sure it tries to pull an article that I wrote, as well as my colleague Tim Cook, because I'm familiar with Tim's work and I want to see what it pulls for Tim's. So at first glance, ChatGPT provides what I asked for, which appears to be a reasonably well-written essay on the topic that I provided, but you can see that the references for Tim and for me are pretty generic. So I revised my prompt and asked for more specificity. Let's take a look. So this first reference from Dr. Cook, Architects of Catholic Culture, Designing and Building Catholic Culture in Catholic Schools, published by the National Catholic Educational Association. That is an actual book, and Dr. Cook did actually write that book, but it was not published in 2015. It was published in 2001. For the next reference, let's look at mine, Fussell R., 2018, Lay Educators and the New Evangelization, Catholic Education Press. I really appreciate that reference. It's a very official sounding book and very prestigious sounding, but I did not write that book. I did not write any book for the Catholic Education Press in 2018. Following that, we have a reference from Miller, J. Miller, and I assume that that's J. Michael Miller, who's Archbishop and has written some influential stuff on Catholic education, but not this. This article by this author does not exist in the Journal of Catholic Education. So as you can see, ChatGPT is pretty flawed in terms of the accuracy of the specific information that it provides, and it's always good to go back and verify. One of the things that we can do right off the bat working with ChatGPT to get more accurate information is to provide more specific prompts. And I like to follow a certain formula or to provide certain things to ChatGPT and how I structure my prompts so that I get the most useful information possible. The first thing I'll do is provide ChatGPT with an identity. So what do I mean by that? Basically, I will tell ChatGPT to assume the role of something, to assume the role of a teacher or a parent, or pretend you're a high school principal or a middle school assistant principal or a professor of Catholic education, whatever. But give ChatGPT that role, and it will help to provide ChatGPT with just some important foundational content or context about what it's supposed to do. And then you give it a task. So basically, what are you looking for from ChatGPT? So for example, provide me with an outline that I can use for this report that I'm making to the school board, or provide me with some talking points that I can share with my teachers based on this news article that I read or that just came out in the, whatever, the local newspaper. You can provide the tone, so you can ask ChatGPT to provide its response in a certain tone. Make your response appropriate for parents of elementary school students or teachers in a middle school, and let them know who the audience is going to be. And ChatGPT will be able to use that to tailor its response. You can always provide context, and this is really cool. So when you're structuring your prompt for ChatGPT, you can tell it that you're going to submit things like your school's mission statement or a copy of your school's strategic plan or samples of things that you've written in the past that you want ChatGPT to follow that structure of writing or to follow that example. Anything that you can provide for context will help you to get whatever response you want from ChatGPT. Still won't be perfect, but it might be closer. You can specify the length and the format of the output. So I think it's important to do that. So like you can say like a 3-paragraph email or a 5-paragraph letter to parents about whatever. You can say, provide me with an outline of something, or you can submit an article and say, submit back to me an outline of the essential key points of this article if you don't have time to read the article. So that might be one way that you could save time. And then finally, you can ask ChatGPT to ask you questions about things it might need to provide you with more useful information. So if you do that, then ChatGPT will respond and provide you with those clarifying questions. So here are some examples of what I'm talking about. In this example, we're asking ChatGPT to assume the role of a Catholic high school principal. So that will provide the algorithm with some essential foundation that will help it to tailor its response to be appropriate and useful. The task is for ChatGPT to provide me with copy for an email marketing campaign for our school. I've identified the audience for the email campaign as parents of middle school students. And then here's some context. I'm telling ChatGPT that I will submit our school's mission statement, samples of other marketing copy, and 3 testimonials from current parents, and that ChatGPT can use those for context. After I submit those, I will tell you that I'm done providing context, and then it will provide me with the copy. So I'm just letting ChatGPT know that I will be submitting several things through the prompt interface. Next, I specify the length and the format, that the copy should be 3 paragraphs in length and that it should be concise and succinct. And then finally, I'm inviting ChatGPT to ask me any questions if there is any additional clarifying information that I can provide that it would find to be useful in generating a response. Here's another example. In this example, we're asking ChatGPT to assume the role of a public school, elementary school principal, and that will accomplish that same task of providing ChatGPT with some fundamental understanding of how to structure its response. The task is for it to provide copy for an email notifying parents of parent-teacher conferences. I specified the tone of the email to be for an audience of current parents of elementary school students. And then for context, I would, like in the last example, submit the school's mission statement, a copy of the schedule. And in ChatGPT, you can just upload files too. You don't need to type them in that chat box. So you could upload as a file or as text, those things, as well as a similar announcement that was sent in a previous year. And ChatGPT, after we submit those, will provide the copy that was requested. The length of the copy should be 3 paragraphs in length, concise and succinct, again. And then again, I ask ChatGPT to ask me questions if there's any clarifying information that is needed. So the result would be a draft of copy that you could put in an email that, of course, you would have to read and adjust as necessary. So as you can see, ChatGPT can be a really powerful tool to provide us with written communications that we can use in various points and dimensions of our work as educational leaders. but it's not right for everything. And I think one story that I can share that illustrates that is that since ChatGPT has come out and these AI tools have come out and are available for free or for low cost, I've seen situations where we might have like person A who's dealing with a difficult situation with person B. And they use the email, person A uses ChatGPT to generate an email to person B to respond to that difficult situation. I've been copied on some of these emails. And what I see is like copy of a narrative that I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, gee, person A would never use those words. I know person A really well. They'd never say that thing or this thing or phrase something in a certain way. There are a lot of real subtleties in human communication and nuances that we all have and we all can appreciate in our relationships with others. So when I run the email copy through like one of the free AI detection websites, and it comes back that it's 100% AI generated, it makes me wonder if that was the best way to proceed. It makes me wonder about the message that sends, that if the recipient of the written communication were to figure out that it was generated by ChatGPT and not by the actual person, it tends to be dehumanizing. So that brings me to my second essential concept, and it's that we need to be selective about what we use ChatGPT or other AI resources, what we use that for in terms of our writing and our messaging and our communication. And we can definitely seek other forms of output from ChatGPT to help us with our writing, where it's not just simply we're copying and pasting from ChatGPT into an email or into a letter or into something else. And here's a little bit of what I'm talking about. So let's say we're asked by a colleague to provide a letter of recommendation for a job that they're applying for. What I don't recommend that you do is just upload your colleague's resume to ChatGPT and then have ChatGPT provide a recommendation letter that you copy and paste onto your letterhead, sign your name, and send it off. That's obviously problematic, and I am sure that the automated systems now that human resources uses in the job application and screening process, I'm sure that they all have AI detectors and that they use them to determine what's been written by human and what's been written by AI. What I recommend instead is that you upload the position description that the colleague is applying for and have ChatGPT respond to you with ideas of concepts to highlight in a letter that you would write for your colleague yourself. So you write the letter, but ChatGPT will tell you the kinds of things that you should focus on based on what's in the job description. You could also upload, a copy of the school's mission statement for the school that colleague is applying to, or you could upload other information that you might know about the school from other sources, and that could help reveal to you patterns. You could ask ChatGPT, hey, identify patterns of things in this contextual information that would be good to focus on in a good reference letter. And that will help you to write a really good actual reference letter. Here's another example. Let's say that you need to suspend a student for several days for behavior infraction. You always have a hard time communicating difficult news, and you don't want to ask ChatGPT to write a letter to a parent explaining what's going on because you're trying to avoid that conflict. Rather, what you want to do is you can ask ChatGPT for an outline of a generic letter that explains the situation, and you can use that outline to write your own letter. So you might also provide contextual information, like you might upload a copy of the policy. You might, like from the student handbook or whatever, you might upload a copy of your school's mission statement, any other contextual information, and ChatGPT can provide you with some bullet points of things to hit on And again, you write your own letter based on that outline. So it still saves you some time, gives you some direction and scaffolding, but you are the one who writes the letter. And then finally, here's a third situation, and this is similar to the example that I shared. We don't want to use ChatGPT to respond to difficult situations using email. So similar to the previous example, we don't want to use ChatGPT to give bad news. ChatGPT is not a bad news giving resource. So instead of having ChatGPT provide you with written communication to avoid the conflict, have an actual conversation with the parties involved and just leave ChatGPT out of it. There are times where you don't need ChatGPT, and I would say this would be one of those times. If it's a situation that you're not comfortable with, maybe it's heated, maybe there's some conflict or some tension, ChatGPT is not going to help you there. Just have a conversation with those people, and whatever you've learned along the way with effective conflict resolution, try to apply that as well. So just some examples. Again, we want to make sure that we're using ChatGPT and the kind of communication that it provides as ways to humanize our relationships with others and not dehumanize our relationships with others. So in addition to some of the applications that ChatGPT has in terms of helping you to streamline your communications processes and to free you up to spend more time in classrooms and with students and with teachers, ChatGPT and other forms of AI also have great applications in terms of data analysis. And in a sense, you have a data scientist now that's available to you to read and interpret data sets that you provide, identify patterns and trends, and to help you make more informed decisions about how to allocate resources. And let's take a look at this data set that we'll be using in this example. So as you can see, this basic data set, which I actually had ChatGPT invent for me because I don't have any access to real-time data anymore for K-12 schools. So this is a totally fake data set. But in any case, I asked ChatGPT to provide me with a student ID number, the student's grade, their race and ethnicity, highest level of parental education, whether or not the student is on free or reduced lunch status, and then 3 columns for just a generic writing exam score, reading exam score, mathematics exam score. So that can be whatever kind of standardized test you're thinking of, and that's from 1 to 100. And what I want to do is have ChatGPT now in a separate string of prompts in a separate conversation with it, analyze this data and identify patterns and trends. So here's an example of what that might look like. So here I'm asking ChatGPT to assume the role of a high school principal, and I'm explaining that the data set that I'm providing is for the standardized test results for the entire school for reading, writing, and math. ChatGPT will analyze the data in the data set and identify any key patterns or trends that require attention. I'm also asking ChatGPT to disaggregate the analysis by grade level and to provide graphical interpretation as well as narrative interpretation of the data set as appropriate. Now, something to mention here is that I'm going to upload this file, and you'll see that it's saved as a CSV file. So a CSV file is kind of like a spreadsheet, but it's a little more rudimentary, and it's what ChatGPT seems to like to work with. So you can save any spreadsheet as a CSV file. It's just in the Save As options when you go to save. So save your work as a CSV file, and you can upload it to ChatGPT. And here's how it responds. So we can see that ChatGPT is kind of chewing on this data. It's providing us some rudimentary data on the averages for each grade, which I asked it to do, and some narrative interpretation, which is pretty fundamental. It's not reporting anything earth-shattering yet. But as we continue into our narrative and our conversation with ChatGPT, you'll see that it's going to start asking follow-up questions. So you can see here that I asked it to identify trends by race, and it's providing me with some more specific information, which is great, including some graphical interpretation, which I could cut and paste those images into a presentation or a PowerPoint, or if I were doing something for the school board, it would help me with that, as well as some narrative findings about key patterns and trends specific with regard to ethnicity and race. And I can continue to answer the follow-up questions, and it will continue to provide me more focused, targeted analysis that can help me to know how to allocate my time and resources to have the greatest impact on the school community. So it's a pretty helpful resource and tool that we can use as educational leaders as we discern how we can have that impact. Now, one other thing that ChatGPT is offering, or we could always ask it to do as well, is to provide us with any outliers. So here, ChatGPT is running through its analysis again, and it will provide me with those outliers so that I can further understand how to direct resources, maybe work with teachers and colleagues to identify opportunities for early intervention strategies. And you can even ask it to identify those specific students. So what I'm going to do here is just that, to ask it to identify the specific students that it referenced in number 1 above, where it says low reading scores. So you can see that it's generating now those specific students, and we can have targeted conversations with colleagues about how those students' needs are going to be met in the process of instruction. So again, just some powerful data analysis, both in terms of the eventual depth that you can get at, as well as the speed with which the analysis occurs. Now, this is great and obviously really helpful, but let's take it a step further now and see if we can have ChatGPT help us to develop an outline for a school board presentation if we needed to present key data findings to the school board. So here's what that might look like. So here I'm asking ChatGPT to pretend that it needs to write a report for the school board that summarizes the standardized test results that it noted in its analysis. I wanted to provide a clear and detailed outline that includes key findings and action steps, and that the outline should be adequate for me to design a 5-minute presentation. If appropriate, ChatGPT will include graphic analysis from its previous contributions to the chat. And here's what it comes up with. So ChatGPT provides us with an introduction to the presentation with the purpose of the report and the scope of the analysis, along with an overview of school-wide test performance, some key findings regarding race and ethnicity, the influence of parental education and socioeconomic status on the data and the test results. There's discussion in the outline about the analysis and identification and analysis of outliers, as well as some recommended action steps and a conclusion. So for me, this is really helpful because it gives me something to work with. Now, I'm obviously not going to just use ChatGPT's outline without considering the context of our school community and our students and what its needs are and the mission of the school and our school improvement plan and a lot of other factors. But I don't have to start from scratch. For me, a good chunk of time with a project like this is spent like, okay, now I have the results from the standardized testing. I've got to convert it to a spreadsheet, and then I've got to set up the formulas to figure out how to disaggregate by grade level. And then I have to figure out the formulas to figure out any patterns and trends for whatever. And then I've got to figure out how to extract those students who require early intervention for whatever area. And then I've got to, take it all and figure it out in terms of an outline for a presentation. Like to me, just to get a start on that, the ChatGPT provides that, gets me like through a big chunk of the process. And then I just need to tailor it and make it useful for the context in which I'm working. So just a really powerful tool there to save time. But this all brings me to my next essential consideration, and it's that we need to be careful and really intentional about honoring student confidentiality. I would never recommend to anyone that they just copy and paste student test results with identifying student information and attach it as a file, just like I attached a file. You'll notice that my file didn't have any specific identifying student information other than a randomly assigned student ID number. What it makes me think of is I had a friend in high school who was he ended up being this whiz-bang computer network engineer. And I remember he was wearing a shirt one day, I saw him recently, that said, it was about the cloud. We all think about the cloud as this place that's up there where we'll save our file to the cloud and it's up there and we can access it anywhere or whatever. He was wearing this shirt that said, "There is no cloud. It's just someone else's computer." And it's the same thing for ChatGPT or any other kind of AI. Whatever you put in that box where you type your prompt or attach a file goes to someone else's computer. And you absolutely cannot include any identifying information for students or anything that would be violating any norms of confidentiality in terms of working with colleagues or with human resources issues or anything like that. So you have to be very careful about that. So always think twice before you click that arrow to submit your stuff, to make sure that you're using ChatGPT in an appropriate way to honor, the confidentiality norms that we have with students and colleagues. So as we kind of come to the end of this presentation, the last specific concept that I want to leave you with is the need for you to have conversations with your teachers about artificial intelligence in the classroom. And I want to open this part of my commentary with this quote from Heidi Hayes Jacobs, who is a great mind when it comes to curriculum design and curriculum planning. She's the one who came up with the concept of curriculum mapping that we're all familiar with. And Heidi Hayes Jacobs asks the question, for what year are we preparing our students? And she's been asking that question for a while now, for decades. I remember being at a workshop with her at Columbia University in 2005, and she was asking that question before we could even conceive of the, applications of artificial intelligence as they exist today. So for what year are we preparing our students? Or put another way, I've also heard her frame it like this: are we preparing our students for their futures, or are we preparing them for our futures? And ideally, we want to be preparing our students for their futures, which means that we need to be having conversations about how we're teaching this digital literacy component and providing opportunities for students to gain exposure and think critically and not just automatically reject it because we see it as a threat. So have conversations with your teachers about the implications of artificial intelligence in instruction, in the school community, and how students are being trained to use it and how teachers are using it, so that it can be a tool that we can use along with all of our other tools to teach better, and not just be something that we let the students figure out for themselves, and hopefully they'll get it, but they will probably won't get it right unless we help them along the way. And the only way we can help along the way is if we gain exposure ourselves and we approach this with an open and critical mind, but one that will, at the very least, acknowledge the reality that artificial intelligence is here and we need to deal with it. And it's just the new innovation. In previous generations, I can remember Wikipedia being the threat. I can remember electronic textbooks being the threat. I was speaking with a colleague today who was recalling when calculators were first commonly available, and calculators, especially graphing calculators, were the threat. And we figured all that out, and so too will we figure this out. And as we consider the implications, we know too that ChatGPT and this language-based AI is just one form of AI that we have to contend with. There are other forms too. We have AI that will generate images. We have AI that will generate clip art. We have AI that will generate video. I've even heard today, as I'm recording, the day that I'm recording this part of the video, the next phase of textbooks will be textbooks with AI incorporated, electronic textbooks with AI incorporated that are adaptive and will respond accordingly to how students respond to prompts that the textbooks provide. So the textbooks will be using AI in the very near future, and that too will be something that we need to contend with. So let's together just continue to learn more and educate ourselves, and for educational leaders, that we always ask the question, are we using AI in a way that will humanize our relationships with others in the school community? Or are we using AI in a way that will dehumanize relationships with others in the school community? And every time we have a prompt typed into ChatGPT, or we have a file uploaded and we're about to hit send to get the ChatGPT response, that's a question that we need to ask. Is this an ethical way of using it? Are we being transparent in how we're using it? And are we using it in a way that will ultimately lead to stronger relationships within the school community? So just as we bring things to a close, I want to recap the 3 essential concepts that I shared with you. And as a reminder, number 1, always verify that the facts that AI provides are accurate. So you need to double check and do not trust that what ChatGPT gives you or any other AI gives you. Do not trust that it's accurate. Go back and double check, especially if it is drawing upon its own learning. Remember what I said. ChatGPT does not have real-time access to the internet. It relies upon its own learning, and that learning has cutoff dates and limitations. So double check to make sure that whatever you use, if the AI provided it, that it is in fact accurate, so that it won't be a problem for you down the road. So second, we talked about the applications of ChatGPT in terms of communication and its ability to write a narrative that sounds as if a human wrote it. My advice to you was to be selective about what you would have ChatGPT write for you. And anything that involves important communication, particularly interpersonal communication, that you find ways instead to have ChatGPT help you to become a better writer for that context, and not just simply have ChatGPT write the message that you want to deliver. Remember, you are the leader, not ChatGPT. So we want to just use ChatGPT as that resource to help us organize our thoughts and be more effective communicators. Finally, I cautioned you to not ever submit anything to ChatGPT or any other AI that would violate any norms of confidentiality for students or colleagues. It's a very important concept to keep in mind because everything that we submit to any AI resource, you better believe is being archived and stored on some other computer somewhere. And we don't need that. We need to protect the confidentiality of our students and our colleagues. So I want to close just by letting you know how excited I am to be walking this journey with all of you in a time in education where there are so many new advancements happening so quickly in rapid succession that it really makes for an exciting time for all of us. But like anything, we need to evaluate these new technologies with an open mind, but also a measure of caution to ensure that however we're using them will lead to stronger school communities and stronger relationships that comprise them. So with that, thank you for making it to the end of this video with me, and I wish you the best of luck with your school year and all that lies ahead. Thank you again.